For Joan Ottman, you write the music after you edit, or do you edit to the music? I mean, does it help being an editor and and a composer? I mean, have you ever talked about a pair of skills that are like overlapping?
Yeah, there's definitely an overlap process, which makes it not easy. But I'd like to say that as I'm editing the film, I'm thinking of the score, but it's really not true. I'm just desperately trying to keep up with the shooting and editing the film, and I might in my subconscious mind create pregnant areas in the film where I know are going to be big score moments, but what the score is going to be, I have no idea. And it's this thing that looms over me the entire time. It's just this state of fear. I mean, knowing that the whole time I'm on the project as the editor, there's this other, most editors have a light at the end of the tunnel. They can see it coming, but mine is this huge black darkness coming up this massive task to write the score. So, but I really started thinking about the score when I'm finished with my first cut, and then I start thinking, and I had my studio shipped up and started tinkering with the main thematic ideas. So at least I'd go back to LA with some hope of finishing the score.
You ever stretch out a sequence thinking, I got a real good motif for this one, and you make a little
Well,
space?
I mean, I can always go back in the editing room and sort of stretch things out if I'm excited about something I've written.
Talking about their collaboration, when you're cutting this together, the third time you write the film, what's it like working together? How do you bounce off each other?
We love it.
Great.
No, I mean, well, you want me to?
Yeah, go.
I mean, the great thing about having done many projects together, and I'm sure I speak for Brian too, is that there's a trust that's built. And so it's great, it puts sort of ease on both parties. So he can let me do my thing and know if he comes in a few days later that I'm not going to go off on some insane tangent that he wasn't expecting. And we sort of, in a way, trained each other in our sensibilities and kind of morphed it into one. So we kind of have very similar sensibilities editorially. So when he says something, I go, oh, of course. I usually don't argue against it, or if I do, he trusts me that obviously I've exhausted every possibility, and so it makes things better.
We have to get one last question for Stan here, who has to leave us. He's got an early morning call, but I want to ask. You've got a bunch of other stuff in the in the works, in the pipeline. What's ahead for the Marvel universe and the characters that you've created? We know that Fantastic Four is underway.
Yeah, well, my one big line, and he blew
Oh,
it
I'm sorry.
for me. The
I'm
Fantastic Four.
Yes,
Is this thing on?
it certainly is.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I've seen a picture of the Thing. Maybe you have too. And man, I don't know how they got as close to the way the Thing should look as the way they have him playing it. It's the fellow, I forget his name, from S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, Chiklis. And he is just superb at it. From what I've seen, they're all great. And I think it'll be another terrific movie for which I'll end up getting a lot of credit. It's just ridiculous. But I can't wait to see it. And Dr. Doom is a little bit different than you may remember him in the comics. So it'll be interesting to see what you all think of it. And well, I haven't seen it yet. I've just read the script. And every time I think I have an opinion of the script, they send me new pages and revisions. You're familiar with that, I'm sure. And so I have no idea what the script is. I've got 100 different versions. I can't remember them all. And I don't even know why they send them to me, because they don't really want my opinion. I think they don't know what to do with them. After an old version comes along, you can either throw it out or send it to Stan. So it's become the equivalent of throw it out, I guess. And listen, I could go on and on, but you want to hear from these guys. So it was a pleasure being here, especially a pleasure seeing all of you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stan Lee. Why don't you just take Stan's chair? The easiest.
All the best.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, nice seeing you.
Thanks,
Great,
Stan.
whatever the hell it is you do.
I guess,
You
yeah.
do it great.
Thank you.
And listen, I don't know what I did wrong.
In the presence of a legend. And many others, too. All right, let's get to the other questions here. You've got 10 million balls in the air when you're making a film like this. You know, you've got, well, yeah, so to speak, three of them made out of iron and the rest of them, you know. But how do you keep everything clear? How do you keep your perspective?
Believe what I read in the what?
No, I'm
no.
I'm talking about how do you keep your perspective? How do you keep sort of a clear through line when you have responsibilities on every level here?
It helps to have to be very involved. Well, to be at the core of the development of the story. I co-write with these brilliant gentlemen, and then work very closely with them, and so my understanding of the material is, as much as it is constantly, as Stan pointed out, in flux. I am so familiar with it that I can run the movie in my head, what's shot, what's been shot, what needs to be shot constantly. It's the one thing, I don't remember what I had for dinner last night or who I had it with, but I do have a good memory of this stuff. That's the one thing I can remember.
Do you approach the movies with the already established sort of timeline, or are you recreating it? I mean, there is this universe that does exist already in, comics, but do you feel free to mess with that to some degree? Change that around?
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird balance now, having spent 6 years with this universe and dealing with comic universes that are so established. It's a weird gut reaction that requires a measure of restraint, understanding, and absolute appreciation for the fans, primarily, which is why, and we kind of, all being fans and knowing a bit about it, check and balance each other when you're making those changes and making those adjustments, and try never to lose sight of the essence of a character. There's certain things you don't change. You don't give Wolverine 2 claws. He's got 3 on each hand. You don't, but in case of Rogue, in the first X-Men picture, she's younger than perhaps she's remembered in the comic, but maybe she serves a purpose to the story that maybe a Kitty Pryde would, but her power is more necessary to and more interesting. So you suddenly have a mixture of those characters in Rogue, and the minutia of 40 years and multiple writers and all of that is a hard thing to obsess over in a 2-hour movie. You just have to make sure you don't lose the essence of it and respect that.